Right, Greg, Vaughanie has got this idea of a prank that he wants us to play on you, but what right does a Atlantic boy got coming to Porthcawl for the evening and being the guy who plays the prank? So we're going to turn it back on him, right? So this is what he wants to do. He wants me to tell you that he's not going to make it and pretend he's not going to make it, and he wants you to be all kind of like gutted, like, oh no, it'd be so much better with Vaughanie here. And then he wants to like record your reaction and then go, he's actually come in, and then later on play that to you when we talk about Vaughnie's previous prank calls on you, right?
I see.
So this is the plan, right? We'll just fake it now. I'll say, oh yeah, Vaughnie's not coming. And then instead of being like gutted, you just go, oh well, I didn't really think we needed him in the first place, to be honest. And then we'll play that to him instead later on. Does that sound like a plan? So we'll go like this. Are you ready?
Oh.
Right.
You sure it's not too cruel?
We'll let him. We don't have to use it if we don't like it. So Greg, we finished off our last episode talking about some of your big contest wins and the fact that you had a particular willingness to, go to the backhand when you needed to, and to that end, I think it would be pretty remiss of us not to try and sort of start off this second episode with asking you for a bit of advice really on that, because I think that backhand, the whack attack as it was known, is known.
Wick whacka!
It's a deadly weapon. And you're a surfer who I've always considered to have the fundamentals down very tightly. So what advice have you got for someone who sort of wants to put it together?
Well, I was fortunate. I had a point up the road, the right, okay, and then when I went travelling, I went to the Durban, all right-handers. I went to Trestles, all rights. I went to the Gold Coast, many times, all rights, right? So I was going backhand all the time, right?
Yeah.
So for me, in my era, right, if it was like 3 feet, the backhand surfer had the advantage anyway, because it's quite easy to scoop it up vert backhand, right? That was my ethos. It was vert on the backhand, and on the forehand you'd have to hit it and just sort of end up backwards and just slide it a bit, right? That was where we were at back then. If you could do that, you'd probably go through. Now,
and what about the fundamentals then, right? You do a pretty good spiel on the fundamentals.
Okay.
What is good surfing to you?
Well, look, let's have a look at it on paper, right? What have you got here? You're standing on your board. You've got your rotation. You can twist. And the other thing you can do, you can go up and down, right? You've got the compression and the elevation, right? And it's how you amalgamate those two aspects together of your body, and where you put all of that on the wave is just dictates how you're going to surf, right? You look at a surfer like Jack Robinson, or you look at Toledo or Joan Daru, right? What they will do, this is exactly what they will do. I'll run you through it, right? They'll firstly identify the peak where they want to take off, right? And they'll identify the TP or the peak or the triangle section, and they'll take off either deeper than it to backdoor it, or they'll take off just underneath it, right? They'll, like Joey, they'll glide into it, like you hear Joe Trappell say it, he glides in. Yeah. Right? They do glide in.
Do you know what? I thought I was next to him then. Right? He won't say it as smoothly as I'd say.
No. So like Joe Trappell was from Kevin Glass. But as they paddle in, you might see them quickly checking over their shoulders to just finalise the perfect takeoff placement. Yeah, underneath that. They'll have their chest up, they will have their head up, right? They can see it, it's a better view. They will be scanning down the line. They will identify all the sections of the wave as quick as they can, to work out, try and map it together, one extra paddle, and then just to guarantee that you don't get hung up, right? Then they scan down the line. Now, as they pop up and land from obviously perfect surfing position, right? Quite low they'll be. Then they will, on the forehand, they will put the trailing hand, they'll reach out with the trailing hand and scoop water back, and then as
your bottom turn.
That's your bottom turn.
Is there a difference as well during the pop-up between the hands?
Yeah, that's right. You've got a pop-up. When you pop up, when a pro pops up, his hands aren't parallel to each other. One of them is 2 inches further forward than the other. It's on the deck of the board and it's quite close to the rails. But if you look at them very closely, they put one hand slightly further forward than the other to give themselves more room to scoop their legs and bum under to get the pop quicker, right?
Right, so the bottom turn, hand in the wave.
Hand on the forehand, the trailing hand will go into the water. Incidentally, on the backhand, the leading arm, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Then it's to do. Then that'll be nice. They'll be compressed at that point, and then it's to do with. And the other thing I'd like to add as well is they'll delay this bottom turn. They'll go as far down that wave as they possibly can, and that will give them more space and time to get that board more vertical on the way back up, right? Then it's to do with after the bottom turn, it's to do with the rotation, right? You're going to twist your body, so you're aiming up, even though your legs are still aiming down, right? Then, immediately, if the bottom turn finishes, your body corrects itself for a split moment before you get to the top of the wave. And it's time then to twist your body again. You rotate, you split your body in half. You're going to swing your trailing arm, shoulder over to give you the strength to get back down low, to recover. You momentarily, or you give the illusion you're getting momentarily a little out of control, and then you regain control. It's an illusion. You're not really out of control, but sometimes you are. But that's the gist of it, really. But with our bodies, you separate your body sort of at the waist, right? And your body doesn't like having the legs going one way, the lower half going one way, and the upper half going the other way. It doesn't like that. So during the body's correction of it...
Mine doesn't nowadays in particular.
No, during the correction of your body, when your body straightens it out and gets it back to normal, that's where power is born.
The torque, yeah.
The torque, right? And that's where spray is sent, and done correctly in the right areas. That's where speed is built.
But even when you've given a real thorough diagnosis there of the combination of literally from feet to bottom turn to
the top turn and recovery.
And when you look at and you named a couple of the pros there, but if you look at even the different approaches by the top end pros, from someone like Joan Duru to Jack Robinson, both face different ways, of course, and then even someone as Italo compared to Owen Wright, very different techniques even on the backhand, though they're both extremely effective. And to that sense, Greg, you go into a lot of detail here about the technique of backhand surfing, and you question whether people preferred a forehand or backhand. The early days of competition. I think I don't think there's any. I think some surfers do have a preference, others not, depending on where they've grown up. But is most of your analysis and most of your surfing throughout your time being geared towards, I'm going surfing, I'm thinking of heats and strategy and winning? Or is there times that you just go surfing? And just go and relax and go with it, right? Because there is an element of that is a technique in itself in terms of just go with the flow and cruise, man.
No, if I'm brutally honest, right, when I went free surfing, I would be thinking about a competition format, right? I'd be thinking about
I knew you would. I knew it. Because you can't help it. You're thinking, right, make this one next one.
I'm thinking, what do the judges want to see, right? And as it happens, I like doing that myself anyway. I love going for it and clipping it 4 times. That was where I was at, right?
But even when it was pumping, a 6 foot perfect tube, are you still thinking, right, if I make this now, that's a 3 points, and then if I come up here, that's 4. If I get this to the beach, I'm on an 8 pointer.
I would just try and get it seriously as clinical as I could. I was trying to be as clinical as I could with my surfing, and I would try and do the turns as clean as I could and as big as I could, and I would try to do similar turns over and over to just push them a little bit better each time. But yes, in the back of my mind, I was always the judging format back there, and what I wanted to do on my own board we were in cohesion anyway. We were both singing off the same hymn sheet.
So it's just, I just, as I say, I just knew you would say that, because what competition surfers. I remember reading an article on somebody who was a former professional surfer. I forget who it was. They lived in France, and he said, and he wrote an article for one of the, I think it was Surf Europe, one of the magazines. He said, "Yeah, I took off on this wave, and I went along, and I did like 4 to the beach, and I finished with a foam climb, and then a little reform section, boom." And in my mind, I was like, "That's a 7.5." Paddle straight back out.
Yeah.
And then he said to himself, "You know what? Maybe I'd have more fun if I just concentrated on the best part of the wave and just surf that and just go, I'm fulfilled. I'm going to pull off and enjoy surfing more of the best parts of the waves rather than thinking, I've got to make it to the beach." And
how often do you do that yourself, Vaughanie?
Yeah, and
Not often enough.
that's the difference. When you see competitive surfers, you can see them in a lineup because they do those things.
I stayed, right, with a friend of mine at Laguna Beach a couple of years ago, right? Now, you boys will both remember Jeff Booth.
Yeah.
We went down to check the surf one morning, and it was a bit small, and he said, "Oh, man, well, it's a little bit bigger here." He said, "There's a right comes across the bay there." And he said, "You remember Jeff Booth?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Remember those 8.5s? He's out there doing them 20 times a day." And he's a retired surfer, apparently, and that's literally how his surfing is described. He's out there at his home break doing his 8.5s.
You just can't get rid of it. It's inbred into you from such a young age that to you becomes surfing. Apart from, and that's why I question about what it's like when you're in good ways, because your mindset changes then to like, I just want to get as barreled as I can, and the score sheet in your head becomes irrelevant because you just ultimately you're just a surfer going out to surf and enjoy the best.
Well, there's going to try and get a shot for a mag as well, though. That's a different type of surfing, isn't it? You love surfing with photographers.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, look, in comps, if you can get barreled, right, you're winning. It was either barrels or turns or airs if you could do them. But that's for Jeff Booth, right? That's for Jeff Booth, right? He was very strategical and very analytical, right? But all he also did say was when it was flat at the OP Pro in Huntington Beach, right? And they had like a flipping speedboat going back and forth to try and create waves for the surfers. He turned around to the camera and said, "There's more swell in my underpants."
That was when he was a good-looking fella in his time as well, Jeff Booth.
Greg, one thing that, going back to that for a second in terms of competitively, it's really interesting, and I don't think a lot of people realise that even in those early years for you, I know from my own personal experience, that the amount of training that you would have done, not just in the sea, but outside of the sea, and we joked in episode 1 about the lettuce sandwich thing, that we'll perhaps come on to that.
No,
but
it's fair to say.
But I listen to modern day pros, that talk about surfing, and they say, "I'm training," and I'm like, well, and they refer to surfing as training, and I never saw that art of going surfing as training. But did you see it as training? Because I know as well in our time that the art of a good night out was also really important as well.
No, going surfing was going surfing, but in my mind I did train. But training wasn't going surfing. Going surfing was going surfing. I used to do
you do mock heats though?
Yes, true. But again, I used to enjoy doing that. That was, I suppose you could call it training, but for me, that was just fun anyway.
Practicing.
There was land simulation drills I used to do, and plyometrics and ground exercises and swimming.
Yeah.
And
before a Welsh Nationals, you would be weeks and weeks and weeks of it.
Yeah, I used to go skateboarding a bit down the hill and just carve and just learn. You're basically just keeping the relevant muscle groups alive and responsive, and by the time you get to the contest, then if you can just sort of wake them up and get them alive again, you're good to go because the body knows the plan.
I remember, doing circuit training in the local gym, in the what do you call it, the gymnasium. And being paired up with you, and smashing medicine balls on each other's stomachs, and really being pushed to the edge of what I could possibly do, in gym-based training.
Physically, you mean?
I remember doing a bleep test with you, and
God, they are horrible bleep tests.
You very, very determined, and you were very, very, very fit. You'd have gone and played. You could
run all day.
play five-a-side.
Yeah.
Not five-a-side, it was touch rugby.
Yeah.
Up Restway in the car park with some ex-rugby pros that come along.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, you keep pace with them. So where's that fitness come from?
My sister summed it up best. She said, Gregory, you're like a horse. You're either running or you're sleeping.
Thank God you clarified that for us.
Thanks for that one, Justine.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, and I tell you what, talking about these right now.
Hang on. I hope you're going to say what I think you're going to say now, and not forget, you know, the one big thing about a Greg Owen and a contest.
What, the mad dances before going in the water?
Well, I didn't want to point it out.
This is the thing, right? Before going surfing, you were also famous, right?
Yeah.
For I can see that.
Warm
By
up
the way,
drill.
you haven't yet told us how to land that re-entry, so we'll get
come
that
back to
off
that,
you in a minute, right? But you'd stand on land. I've seen you doing it at the point, stood behind that little white tower on the point, right before you're going in.
Yeah.
And you're doing
Simulation.
similar to us. The first time we all saw that, and for years it was known as like this little mad dance you do before going surfing. Look at him, he's wacky, he's mental. Look, well, what's he doing, right? Now, the last episode of this show before yourself, our featured guest was Brad Gerlach. And Brad has now basically pioneered a program which like world-beating surfers are looking to sign up to, right? And it is all of that. And Chris Fowler, formerly of Lantrit and now of the Gower, we had him on there talking. He's been using Gerlach's program, and it pains me to admit this, but the phrase that was used to describe you was way ahead of his time, because you were doing all that stuff, and we all thought you were nuts. But actually, now what do we know? Brad Gerlach is now spending hours talking to Kelly Slater on inferior podcast to ours, I must add, about it. So, what's your thoughts on that now? No longer the mad dance? Well, it's never the mad dance.
It is relevant. Whatever I surf like, right?
Where did you get the idea for it from?
It's obvious. When you
It can't be. You know you were doing it.
I tell you what, if you witness some of the things I've seen him doing, oh my God. I mean, you know, to be fair.
So go on.
right, when you surf,
Go on.
if you go surfing for an hour, say, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get, 10, 20 waves, right? And a wave is like, 10 seconds long? If you put all that time together, how long are you on your feet for? 3 minutes, 4 minutes in total? That's
Not long.
That's a good surf session, right? So when are you going to get ready for it all? How do you think you're giving your body enough time to prep and your muscles to wake up? You're just not really. So if you drill on the beach first, like whatever I surf like, whether it's good, bad, or whatever you think of it, right? I can surf consistently every single time. I can surf to my own ability every time. I don't really have that many shockers. I can just go in and be like Greg Owen, right?
Yeah.
Because I kind of wake my body up and wake the relevant muscles up with these drills I do, which to you all look like crazy dances, right? But I've been doing it for years. It came natural to me, right? But then also I must add, in the Azores, the French team were doing it, right? And Herbie said to me, have a word with their coach, right? And he came over and he showed me all the drills he was doing with the French team before they were going in the water. And I thought, brilliant, I've been doing it all for years. It's very similar to what I've been doing. They had honed it a bit more, and I did learn a lot that day, right? Yeah. But they got their French team doing it, and look where they are now. They've just come, what were they, first or second in the World Games? It was them in Japan, wasn't it, right?
Yeah, they were the world champs, yeah.
And no, the French team, they didn't come up with it either. They got it from Australia before them. So it's stuff that's been around for a while, right? But
I think it was the enthusiasm in which you were doing it, which was so unique. I don't think any of us questions perhaps the logic, although none of us adopted it.
I questioned the logic.
It was like sit back and enjoy the show.
But what do I know? What did I know?
Facebook and stuff.
Now Brad Gerlach now telling us how to do that. So well, fair play to you, Greg. Now rivalries. one of your
A few of
key
them.
rivals is sitting in this room here, right? And some of these rivalries have gotten rather heated in
Many a
it.
tussle.
And I got good stats on Welsh surfing. I'm well known for digging deep into my statometer or stat manual or whatever it is, my stat manac. And I've got one on you. I think you are officially Wales's most unlucky person when it comes to quivers of surfboards being run over by people in cars. And we got one rival here, Mark Vaunt, couldn't beat you in the water, so he had to run your quiver over. Tell us about that.
Remember, you make your own luck.
No, hang on. That wasn't that. No, it wasn't to take him out of the event. That was just pure a miscalculation on. Yeah.
In the British and Croyd.
We just come back. It was France 2001 Euros. Just come back from Hossegor, and the British was at Croyd, but it was windy, too massive. Went round to Putsborough. Greg and I had travelled down together, and it was so, when it's that windy, you can't leave your boards hanging around. You stick them under the vehicle so they don't blow off. And we were parked up for the day, but it was raining, and Greg had gone off to go and check on something, and I was like, oh, it's a bit cold, and then somebody sort of waved to me, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to get out of the car, it was raining, or whatever thought process went through my mind at that point. But it was the most amusing side from this, and you can pick it up after this bit, was that as I turned the engine and started to move forward and accelerate forward, in the corner of my eye I just seen this figure waving his arms furiously, and I thought, well, it's a bit early for a heat warm up.
He's doing one of his mad dances.
Here he goes.
And then you pick up what you saw from there, Greg.
The defining moment for me was, I remember looking at the boards and they were all, I thought, oh dear.
Oh yeah, because it wasn't one, it was like the full quiver,
They're
wasn't it?
saying looking good. And I remember thinking, right, what about the one board that I need for this contest? I thought, right, I only need the one really, so don't worry about it. And I thought, right, and I looked at it, and it was like kind of like the belly of the stick, right, was down in the sand, and the deck was up, right, so the rocker was up, and I'm thinking to myself, right, he might have driven over that now. Any luck, the fins will have just gone horizontally down into the grass, right, and I'll be able to flip, just pick the board up slowly now, and the fins will all be in one place, no problem. Right, when I went over, I turned the board over, and as you can rightly imagine, all the fins were flat at the side of the board. Goner. And I remember thinking,
You picked the board up though, you held it by the nose in front of you so it was the same height as you, and as you looked, the last fin sort of plopped onto the floor, and then you drop kicked the board 20 foot.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind it was howling with wind as well, and I was like, I'm sat in the passenger seat, and in the driver's seat, sorry, just like, oh my god, and I've never felt so bad in all my life.
And how did you go in the comp?
no, the writing was on the wall after that.
It was,
I had a go on a borrowed board, I had a go, but
it was one of mine.
it was hard eat anyway. I was in with John Bajorski, he was good then, and and Stokesy, and Stevie Winter, he was a tough eat anyway, And no, I did have a go, but no, I needed a bit more to get through that, like my own board, like, thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
and I can confirm, right, that your quiver was run over in Sarn services as well.
Yeah.
And apparently there was rumours that there was a few bills for changing hands between Mark Vaughan and the driver of that car as well.
I was on that trip, but there was nothing to do with me, this one.
Yeah, that didn't end that well either, really. I mean, I remember getting to Spain and getting this train or something to the local town to try and get it fixed back and forth a few times, or the boards were never really the same since. And the result...
If you lose your board, it's just one that's going to mess with your head, alone.
Just to recall the enthusiasm drifting away.
Confidence goes, all those kind of
slipping. He was slipping from that moment on.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about something you are enthusiastic about, travel. Now, that has always been a big thing for you, right? And you used to do, the travel you used to do, right, I remember well, you'd work all the hours God sent in the run up to Christmas. You'd often employ myself, my brother, Matt Gould, a couple of others. £1.60 an hour, I think it was sometimes.
Oh, hang on, 175.
Matt Gould was on £2 because he was 18. And
it was a long time ago.
it was a long time ago. Glue gloving, and then you'd sort of get all your money in, you'd sell all your suits, you'd get it all done. You'd have a good few nights out. You'd pretty much stop surfing over Christmas and the New Year, and then you'd sort of just go along to Heathrow, pasty and white.
Yep.
And then you'd come back 4 months later, fighting fit, lean and tanned.
Yeah.
And you'd go to these places and you'd go there for months. And for me, being like, I don't know how much younger than you I am, but it was enough that, we were still in school and we'd see you disappear. We'd be there in January in our school uniforms, enjoying getting an extra wave in the S because you were missing. Lonely travel, long travel. And it inspired me and my peer group to do the same, and we literally copied your trips. We went to Sri Lanka for 3 months one year. I went to Durban for 3 months the year after. I remember, travelling with just a pen and paper, of notes that I'd made from asking you where to go to, which train stop to get off at. So trailblazing, really. And then this famous ritual of the can of beer in the shower at the end of the day to toast the day's surfing.
Why wouldn't you?
Just tell us about some of those trips you did there. We got Reunion Island, Fiji.
It started off when I was about 15. I jumped in a van with my mate in a VW combi split screen. And we went down through France, Spain and Portugal with my mate and another guy called Mark Powell, a lovely bloke.
Rest in peace.
God rest in peace, right? We had a whale of a trip, right? And then after that, then for the next 12 winters, from the age of about 16, 17 to about 30, I'd go away for 3 months every winter. Every January the 5th, it was normally the date, the silver bird would come down from the sky. I'd jump in and off we'd go, right? And I was so excited, I was so into it. I wasn't lonely. It was just my destiny. You were going. I did used to try and persuade my friends to come, and you'd sort of get some saying, yeah. But in the end, you were going on your own, or you were not going. So I would go, and it was.
You used to say to me, "Your friends are already out there."
That's right.
They're all saying, "Come on, Tom." I remember you saying
that's
that.
That's right. I always used to think your friends are already there.
Because I remember telling you once I was saving up to go away somewhere.
Go there and meet them.
I won't say the fella's name, with somebody else. I said, and I remember you just said, "Hang on, he's not going with you." Yeah. And I said, "What?" You said, He's not going to save the money. He's not going to go. You need to go on that trip on your own. Your friends are already out there." And I remember thinking, okay, you were right. The guy went and bought himself a surfboard on his first payday or whatever, an Almeric, and he didn't come, and I did have to go on my own. So a
lot of commitment.
Listen to this stuff, Grommets. I'm saying, it's really important. Logan, Pat, listen to this.
I say on my first trips, as a youngster, I went on my own, 16, 17 to the Canary Islands, and just literally gone on that plane, and then it was such an experience. And I think once you've done you only have to do one of those, right. and it gives you that confidence then to do anything. I didn't do nowhere near the travelling at the younger years as you did. When
you're that age, you're bulletproof, really, aren't you? You can open any sort of door with a shutter open, and you just sort of stand there and smile until they see it your way.
And therein, you've led me on nicely there, because that unique personality and smile that you possess, and that way in which you have a way of, even in a hostile environment, and I'm going to mention the Hawaii and pipeline, because you told me the story of when you first got there, and I was like, how did you get on the pipeline when the lineup wasn't aggressive, and your response was
yeah, no problem at all. There's a way to do it, isn't there? There's a way you find the guy who's having a great surf, and you start talking to him. He's the guy to talk to, not the guy who's having a shocker, because he's going to be in a bad mood, so don't mix with him. Basically, when you enter that lineup, you've got about 15 minutes to start talking to someone, or you're just going to be the outsider, and that just can go from bad to worse, right? So my trick was to identify the guy who was flying, and then say, "Wow, what a wave!" Give him a hoot. Obviously, let him have whatever wave you just stay out of the way, right, until he's had loads. And then you just say, "Well, look, what sort of board you riding?" And then at that point, he's off. He's treading water next to you. He's flipped the board over. He's showing you the dims, and all the other locals are out the back looking back at you, having a relationship with their mates. And once you've broken the ice with the one, you're in the door then.
It's a charm offensive, but you're the words you used to me. You said, you went up to the forget to. Can you remember which heavy pipe local you paddled up to and went?
Davy Miller.
Davy Boy Miller. So go on, what happened here then? So you paddled up to Davy Miller and asked him his dims.
I started talking to him, yeah, and then I remember then I was at the back with him then, and we were sort of like in my mind, he was in.
What kind of pipe is this? Solid pipe?
Yeah, scary, 10 foot.
Okay.
I'm flipping. I tell you how I ended up out there. I lent this car off the Brazilian guy, and he said, "Look, you've got to have it back by 12 o'clock, right?" And it was about 11 o'clock. Right? So I got up there. I was on the beach at about.
Obviously, fully insured.
Yeah, that's right, definitely.
Of course it was.
Of course, like. And I think, right, it's 11:15. I've got to be back at midday, right? So if I just go out there now, by the time I get my suit on my board, I'll go out there now and get maybe a wave or two. And then either way, if you get killed, you're back in that car and you can leave it back at midday. So you haven't got long. So just go in, and if you get killed, you get killed. Well, you're not going to get killed. You're going to be back at 12 o'clock. You're going to be handing the keys back over to the Brazilian guy, right? So I went in, 10 foot, scared. Petrified. Oh my God. And I had 2 or 3 waves, right? And I thought, right, brilliant. Took the car back to the guy, gave him the keys, and I just went into this Mark Food guest house I was staying at, sitting down watching telly, watching cartoons on telly, right? Thinking I was the king of New York and I'd conquered Hawaii, right? And I thought, well, hang on now, Greg. If I was like 4 foot there or 5 foot, you'd be up there for the afternoon surfing us through. So I thought, well, why are you sitting here watching cartoons? Get back up there. So that was it. Then I got on the bike and went back up there and had another blast at it then for about another 2 or 3 hours. Happy about that.
But didn't you say to him, didn't you like battle up to him and say, "Hello, I'm"?
Oh, it would have. It would have gone like that. It would have been something like, "I am." How you doing, mate?
Hey mate, how are you? I'm Greg. Popcorn.
You know it. You just know it. It would have been like that. Yeah. They were still like the mainland Americans over there, aren't they? And they think, oh, we just one of them. And if you come over some like crazy European, they're like, oh,
you explained where you're from.
Slightly different.
So I'm from Wales.
Yeah, I don't know how much merit I would have had out there, but it would have come round to that.
Reunion Island, I want to ask you about. Like, I don't know, I don't know, other than my brother actually, I don't know anyone else who surfed Reunion Island from Wales.
Ben Ruddle went out there as well, didn't he?
Right, okay.
Right, we were surfing Saint Lô. Fortunately, before I went there, a French team with some Reunion surfers had come to Pembroke and they were warming up. Me and Herbie were warming them up down in Fresh. They went on then to surf against Africa it was a Euro-Africa exchange, right? Anyway, we were warming them up in Pembroke. There was one guy in the team, a big, double-hard black gentleman, right? He befriended me, right? Anyway, when I went to Reunion, he was in the water, so it was like, right, there's my entry contact right there. So I was talking to him then, and I was in then, right?
Adrian Rapp, was that his name? Anyway, go on.
I was in, so when I surfed, I would look for him in the water and then go in with him in Saint Lô, right? It's one of the best lefts in the world. And it wasn't immensely sharky back then. Now I think things have changed and they've somehow tampered with nature, and I think the bull shark is too many bulls there now hanging around like dogs of the sea, and they hang out in packs. But when I went there, it was on, and we went there for 3 weeks and had the big time. And before that, I was in Tamarin Bay in Mauritius. That was wonderful. And then after that, where was that then? We went.
You did go to Fiji on that same trip.
Yes, that's right. That was.
And you caught the boat to Tavarua when they just reduced the law to say that you could surf.
Yes,
Cloudbreak
that's right.
If you'd come in on a boat from another island, wasn't it?
Yeah, wangled my way into surfing Cloudbreak on a Sunday. I can tell you what happened. This is wild, right? we'd been surfing a place called Wilkes Pass, right, which is like a sort of pretty good right-hander, and we were going back to Seashell Cove, right, on the boat. And the boat conked out halfway, right? I said to the guy, have you got a spare motor? No. Have you got any CBs? No. Have you got a life jacket? No. Have you got any beer? No. and I knew we were in between. We were drifting towards Cloudbreak. And I thought, oh my God, this ain't looking good. I said, what are we going to do? And he said, oh, I'll swim. And I looked at him and I thought, oh, come on. There was a Brazilian guy with me, and I said, right, you and I, we're going to have to paddle to Tavarua, right? That's what we do now, right? No. Raise the alarm. So we got these bottles of water, stuffed it up underneath our rash vests, and paddled. And I remember there was this Japanese couple on the boat, and they were like waving to anyone who could possibly see, like a full-on SOS distress signal, like, you know. And anyway, we paddled to Tavarua, right? And we got to the shore, and John Roseman was standing there.
No way.
Yeah. He said, all right. I said, yeah, sure. So we've got a bit of an issue here now. The boat's conked out there, and it's drifting towards the rocks of Cloudbreak. Can you help us out a bit? He said, yeah, come on in. He said, do you want some food or a drink? I said, yeah, that sounds good to me.
For the listener, John Roseman is the discoverer and owner of
That's right.
Yeah. And absolute charger. And
John Roseman and Scott Funk. Anyway, go on.
So we got there. We're in the bar. I didn't end up having food, but I had a couple of drinks with him. All right. And the distress signal. We got another boat come out from Seashell Cove to collect that one, or he sent one of his out or something like that. It was all made safe, right? And I ended up sitting in the bar with him, right? And I got to know him a bit, and then sort of got the angle in then on how to get there and surf it the following Sunday, because at that time you couldn't surf there unless
it was to do like a fishing
permission thing.
Yeah, they had the rights for the island and you couldn't surf there, and it was awkward, but I managed to work out a way to do it there and then it happened then. I surfed it was 6 foot. There's the photos on the wall there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's the inside section.
Yeah.
It was steaming, and there was this American guy called Randy on a boat. And I was out there on this inside section pulling in, and he was going, dude, you owe me so much money for these photos. Dude, I hope you got a fat wallet.
So you chanced to wangle those off him?
Yeah. I phoned him up when I got back home, and I said, right, what's the deal with these shots? Dude, they're so good, I got them in front of my office right now. I'm looking at them right now. And he said, fair play to him. I sent him over about 100 quid, and he sent me a box of slides. And they've stood the test of my time. There was better ones than that.
Still got them as slides?
Yeah, Carve put them in the magazine.
Yeah.
They were brilliant.
So before we move off topic in terms of travel and and going to touch upon some of the other thing in terms of, if you would summarise your greatest day of surfing in your surfing lifetime so far outside of the UK, where all those travels that most surfers can only dream of. I mean, Christ, there's Hawaii, there's Indonesia, Reunion, Fiji, Australia, all these countries that you've been to, USA, South America,
Africa,
everywhere. You have been everywhere. Where is that one day you go, oh yeah, that day, that was the day?
Right, the ones that instantly go to my mind now is...
You're only allowed one.
Oh, I'm only allowed one.
I know you're not a maths person.
Oh, thank you very much for that glowing endorsement.
I said name the one, and then you went, now this I can think of.
I've got two in my mind. Right, I'll tell you what.
I'll allow you two. There we go.
The first, I was in Sumbawa when I was young.
Yeah, I knew you'd go to
that. Was insane, right? Yeah. Lakey Peak was just mind blowing, and we stayed there.
If you went there when you were young, it was still
we were young. It was quiet,
and nobody knew too much about it. Not for the UK.
Barreled like hell.
Periscope's just up the road.
We just take off on the peak and just do a turn and then run like all hell, and you just about get to the barrel on the inside in time, and you were right back in it. You were like looking out, thinking, Jesus Christ, not so sure about this one, and just either holding your nerve or a little bit of a pump, and you'd come out and it would blow me away. They were the best tubes I've ever got in my life, right? They were definitely the best tubes I've ever got in my life. Then the other one that really was a hell of a day for surfing and just camaraderie and the love of the sport was, I went with Garth Llewellyn on his 40th, right?
Very recently then?
Like
2-3 years ago?
A year ago with Spencer Hargraves and Greg Hill, my mate, was there. And
I was invited on that one, I couldn't go.
We had a hell of a time, right? With my Australian friends we had there, and it was 3 Aussies, 3 English and 3 Welsh. My mate John Lawrence with us as well.
All right.
This one day anyway, it was Gadge's 40th.
Wouldn't have been quiet.
we woke up in macaroni, right? And it was 3 foot, 4 foot. It wasn't big, but it was perfect. And oh my God, it just felt like when we were surfing it, to me it felt like it was going downhill. We were just going so fast. Brilliant.
It's a hell of a wave.
Surf the guts out of that. Have you surfed it?
I've been very fortunate, and we spent.
It's horrible on the forehand, isn't it?
I spent 5 days there in '96 when it was one other boat, and it was insane. Just 4 to 6 foot every day.
Oh,
it's one of for anyone that hasn't surfed or seen it, it's one of the greatest fun
performance waves.
In fact, Nick Von Rupert's just posted an amazing tube that he's got spat out of at Macaronis, which isn't renowned for being the most heaviest of waves, but it's a great. In fact, it's probably more chewy when it's smaller because it kind of fattens off a bit then. But so, Greg, that's overseas stories, but as you've got children, and that becomes harder to travel in terms of for long periods of time, and you're running a business, and you've got lots of things going on. So your surf trips start to come a little closer to home, and fortunately for our generation, that's coincided with a lot of waves coming to our attention within the UK and being discovered in somewhat some of them, or just as I say, falling on our radar.
Discovered by us, that's right.
Yeah, well, discovered by us, and in terms of being able to go beyond and out of Wales from, we've got some great waves here, but there are genuinely some borderline world-class waves around. I know we've gone up to the northeast together.
Yes.
Lynmouth's just over the road in terms of a fantastic fun wave. Broady locally, Thurso.
It's my favourite beach, Broady.
Yeah. In Wales. Is there any one of those spots that you think that's you're always on your shopping list to go off and go and surf when you're looking for some tubes and just reminisce of what that inside section was like at Cloudbreak, just to give you that moment?
Yeah, and Island as well as
Island, of course. Yeah,
they're on my. There was a time for about 10 years when I would just look at the chart and go on like mini hit trips off the swell on the chart. I'd go away for 3 days and just see the swell through and come home. But like you say, I don't know how much I can say about the waves. Those waves, I love them, and you mentioned them, but I don't know how much I can say about them because they're not really mine to give away.
It's just in terms of, I guess, in terms of your story and your time, and for people listening, it's the journey of being a surfer. And for you, being at the top end of competition, and then you also thrilled.
It was a transition.
Transition.
That's what happened to me.
But it hasn't necessarily been a negative transition, which it is for so many sports people in terms of they step off from playing Premiership football, rugby. You don't have to do that.
No, you've got somewhere to go and you've got to find it, right? That back then, like you rightly pointed out, my transition from the competitive days was on to the mini hit trips, right, to surfing some of the best waves I could get my hands on, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I do now is that when the surf's pumping, I go surfing. I make an effort to get in there, right? And if it's small, I take the kids in. And if it's a bit crap, if it's not very good, I go to work, right? But when I did used to travel wherever I'd go, even the England and Ireland trips or even West Wales, I'd always travel. There's a way to do it and there's a way to not do it. I'd try and arrive on my own or with a minimum amount of numbers for starters.
Yeah.
And I'd give the locals everything I could everything I could possibly give them. I'd stay right out of the way where they were getting their waves for starters. I wouldn't go interfering. And when they've all fed, I'd have a few then. And my trick was then in the evenings, then we'd buy them a few pints, like.
All this trick in the book, it's cost me a fortune to serve some places. It wasn't even that good.
But I'd give them wax and I'd give them whatever they want. Do a deal on a wetsuit, whatever. Just let me surf you. And most of the time, a lot of the surfers from abroad, wherever they were, what they don't want is blow-ins coming in, taking waves and going partying and having a bit of fun and not involving them and not inviting them. That's what Americans and Australians were doing in Hawaii. And the Hawaiians were like, oh, hang on, what about us? We want to play as well. So it's not hard. You just got to be friendly to them.
I think surfers are often stoked to see someone else enjoying their waves.
For sure. As long as you give them the respect that they deserve. And that, when we were getting grown up, there was a guy called Chris Chip who used to take us surfing. And as you get in the car, he'd tell you the rules, like, you know this.
Yeah, and for Chris Chip listeners, you want to tune into some of Mark Schofield's stories about him. They're absolute gold. Hey, you once gave me some good advice about those trips. Because I remember, sort of reaching that kind of stage myself a bit later than you, and I went. Vaughanie mentioned Lynmouth. I went over to Lynmouth, and it was the first time I'd gone there, and it was really pumping, and I was blown away. And I remember coming back to you and saying, like, "Oh my god," and you said to me, "Hey, look, that's the way to do it now. The strike mission thing, and go there for 2 days and surf when it's like that, and." One of those ways is worth like 10 sessions at Crap Rest Bay or whatever.
Well, that's it. It's going to fast track your progression, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just that feeling of, as you say, as your surfing progresses, you need something to really give you that kind of stoke and that feel of almost satisfaction, because you're constantly craving something slightly bigger and better. And and once you're on that gravy chain, and maybe reach a point where you're like, I've plateaued. That's as far as I want to go.
Oh, that's it.
But if you surf 6 foot every day, suddenly you're just like, well, actually, I need a bit more now, and so on and so forth. And being in the UK, we don't get a lot of 6 foot days, especially in Wales. But those trips can really, scratch that itch.
Now,
yes, you can scratch that itch. You're right there in what you say.
Now, on a lot of these
like
trips,
the way you put it,
there's downtime, right? And on some of this downtime, you have been the victim over the years of a couple of very good pranks. And one that the whole world thoroughly enjoyed was the series of phone calls that you received from Hugh
Rhys Morris.
Rhys Morris of the BBC.
Hiya Greg, it's Rhys here.
And this was, of course, Vaughanie and Nathan Phillips sitting in their car, phoning you and pretending to be Rhys Morris from the BBC, and they're sort of lining you up to doing various bits of promo and stuff like that.
And the South African heavy one as well.
With Richie Sills, that was a classic.
So what, you got Silsy to call him as well, did you?
Basically, it again involved travel. Nathan and I had gone down to an event for whatever reason. I mean, Greg wasn't at the event, which was quite unusual. And we were bored. We were waiting in between.
Now we will, by the way, we'll try. I think we'll try and see if we can get some reminders of these up on our Instagram as we have the run into this episode.
Well, they're on YouTube.
They're on YouTube, right? Okay.
BBC piss take off Welsh surfer or something.
Yeah.
So
I try and forget about it.
There was basically a massive storm coming in. I rang up Greg and pretended to be a BBC reporter, asking Greg if he could go and do some surfing for me. And then
storm.
It goes on from there.
But then the Silsy one then, so Silsy phoned him up as a South African.
Yeah, but the beauty of this was that we were staying with Richie again at the same contest a year later, which Greg wasn't at, unusually. And it was a year to the day. And I said, do you remember what we did this time last year? So we got Silsy to ring Greg up pretending he was a South African heavy, because you were working... Heavy. Or you'd been surfing at the not the S, down the road, the left-hander off the breakwall.
That's right.
With Ingemar Cressy, who's South African.
Okay, he was giving it the big heavy. Right? But all we wanted Ingemar's number, right? No, I had Ingemar's number, but I wasn't going to give it to him. Right? And in the end, I didn't know it was I didn't know it was Silsey, did I? He just sounded like some big South African heavy on the phone.
Well, we made out that Greg or Ingemar owed a load of money, and that Greg was the connection point to being able to find Ingemar.
It was all a load of horse manure, right? And adulterated, right? However, it was what I was led to believe at the time. But I do recall, in my defence, he kind of... I got annoyed, and I do recall saying, look, who are you to be phoning up to me, giving me the big heavy? Why don't you come down here and we'll talk in my yard? And he never got Ingemar's number off me, even though I was looking at him on my phone.
That's one thing I would say. Greg Owen is no snitch. I mean, Silsey gave him the best scare tactics, but you didn't buckle. Fair play to Greg.
Vaughanie wanted to continue that tradition tonight, Greg, and earlier on, Vaughanie tried to pull a little prank on you by pretending that he was going to be absent, and that had a pretty good outcome. So producer Dodd is now going to put these leathery headphones on Vaughani's ear, and Vaughanie can have a little listen to in real time to how Greg reacted to that. Greg, man, Vaughani's just texted me. He says he can't make it.
He said he was coming.
I know. I've been trying really hard to make him come.
I think he's coming still. I can sense, I can feel he's coming.
No,
he is coming.
Look, he says here, really sorry, give my apologies to Owen, would have loved to have seen him, but I can't make it.
No, we don't need him anyway, he's a big nose blowing.
Alright, fair enough.
But, well, we can take care of this on our own.
Let's do it. We didn't need him anyway, let's go.
Oh, mate. I could feel the pain in your voice there. I'm quite stoked because you were genuinely gutted, I wasn't. Yeah, I think I've I've run over your boards, well, these three of them. So, the prank calls, and I've also done a lot of impressions of you over the years and rung you up pretending to be you. Yeah, Greg, it's Greg.
You've had a lot of time on your hands, mate.
I should really publicly apologise, but I don't think I can do that just yet because I think it would spoil it.
He was primed for that one anyway. So
well, I think what I'll do is perhaps I'll compliment you.
I was primed for it
because maybe it's maybe I'm too obvious now with my gags, but I'm sat in your lounge here, and what's quite apparent is that I'm looking in front of me and I can see some pics and stuff that are obviously dear to you and moments of great achievement. And there's one in front of me that is a Carve cover. The Quicksilver logo, JP surfboard, No Limit wetsuits. It's all there. That must be a fantastic achievement to be on the cover of the Britain's greatest surfing magazine.
Oh, I was well proud about that, right? Yeah. Back in our
Sponsor's dream as well.
Back in our day, that was king to do that, wasn't it? They only had one every...
I don't know, was it?
Did you end up on one?
No. I'm not on the cover.
Awfully sorry to hear that.
Well, there we go, one up on me. What was it? I thought you had two covers.
Oh, they should. I'll have a word with Steve England. I'll get you on the cover next month.
But I mean, when you look at all this around you, do you still feel a relevant part of Welsh surfing? When I mean relevant, that doesn't mean I'm going to be Welsh Open title winner this year. But your influence, I mean, certainly your business, your experience, because for a lot of sports people, and we touch on this, because you are a sportsman, you've got great achievements. There is a sense as you start to get older that you're drifting away from things. Do you feel that at all, or are you more than happy in your place? It's a bit deep, isn't it?
I felt that run through me then, right? I'll tell you one thing now. Me and surfing are quits, right? I don't owe it nothing, and it owes me nothing. We're quits. We've had a fun time together, and it's a trend that's set to continue. I love the sport. I deeply care for what I do, and I deeply care for the sport, and deeply care for all those involved who I surf with and who I don't surf with, right? But we're quits. Now, like we spoke of, I've evolved with my surfing from competitive to those mini hit trips. Now I'm on with the children, Mark. I'm on with a coaching role. I'm giving back and helping develop the youth of my little son surfs with a couple of his friends, Kobe, John over there, and Reese, his other little son, his other little friend he's in school with, and the more the merrier. And I'll just help and guide and help them get the dynamics right of their surfing and put the grounding in, so they got basically the tools to go forward. We've been up to the wave doing it with my son a lot. He's 12 now. Luca Ross Owen's his name. He's a fantastic little natural foot. So, yes, my surfing's relevant, and I do have trips away, and when it's pumping, I'm out there as well. I'm not the surfer I was, but I still have moments when I think, right, this is going well.
But I mean, from what I've seen of you surfing those, proper solid tubing waves, is that you still remain, you haven't lost it at all. You're an absolute, world-class tube rider and surfer. The bigger and better the waves, the bigger and better you surf. So
thank you, mate.
And that's about as much compliments as I can give you for
mate.
one evening.
Thank you very much.
You used to talk about surfing as your religion as well.
Surfing is my religion. I'm very closely related to nature, right? Nature is my law. Nature is my religion, right? Now, for me, surfing is my religion. And when I go surfing, it's a bit like going to church, I'd imagine, for a religious man, right? And when I go in there, I do feel refreshed. I feel great coming out, right? And so if I'm in there and you see me out there, it's obviously a Sunday,
And there's a lot of Sundays in your week.
And a lot... It certainly was.
Yeah.
But a lot of surfers are exactly the same. They just didn't word it that way.
It's definitely a sense of, there's a little sense of emotion in you there, Greg. And,
for sure. Look, surfing's hard grained into my cranium. It runs through my cells. It's to do with me, myself, my family, my children, my work, all my friends, and I've got other friends who don't surf, but it's so linked to my soul that that's about as
who you are.
That's about as blatant as I can put it.
It still is through business as well, isn't it? Because No Limit wetsuits are still, banging out. I think you've done as many wetsuits this year as you've ever done.
Yeah.
But you've also been doing some other interesting things. You've been making these sort of tracking devices for.
That's right.
You've met some of the Welsh rugby players, haven't you?
Yeah. I did the GPS. Right, basically what the Welsh... Well, my relationship with the Welsh Rugby Union is this, right? I put these GPS pockets, which is like a cigarette packet size device, right? And they got these GPS little plastic things, and they want to attach them to the rugby players in between the shoulder blades at the back, right?
Yeah.
So they can work out how fast they're running, how far they have run.
Yeah.
Are they tired? If so, get them off.
Yeah.
Right? So I was employed to create the housing system for this this GPS device, right? So I encase it in a 7mm neoprene pocket
For padding.
Yeah, for padding and protection, so that when they get hit, A, the player doesn't get injured, and B, all the information from the GPS don't get splattered in smithereens.
Met some of the team though, they're cool.
Yes, I took my children up there, and I met them all, right? They all come in, Sanjay and Alan Wynne-Jones and Justin Tipperick and Dan Bigger, just to mention a few, Foxy, John Davis.
Shane Williams, you met him?
I did. Oh God, I met Shane Williams. Did a wonderful deal with Shane and Ryan Jones, Captain Cymru, and that was outstanding. But it stemmed from the GPS work with the team, and then I ended up doing suits for some of the boys, which was a great pleasure for me. My second cousin Tom Pridey come down the other day. He did a nice suit for Tom.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I like it. I get my son up there to meet them as well, so he can be in the presence of greatness, so it can wear off on him a bit as well. So that's lovely.
Do you know what, Greg? What's interesting is that from a business side of view, that business point of view, that there's so few people that actually make something in this country
in
this day and age.
Correct.
You know, and you've evolved your business from not just being a wetsuit manufacturer and maybe some but you're working with an international team, not just an ordinary international team. You know, Welsh rugby internationals who are considered, one of the best teams in the world. Okay, they're yet to win a world title, but it happened. That's an incredible achievement for a small little business out of Porthcawl.
I did it for the Lions as well, right?
Really? I didn't know that.
8 years ago.
Wow.
I was employed by Adidas to do the GPS system, and I was actually putting the neoprene pocket into the Lions rugby shirts, right? So they sent me down, there was 1,800 shirts.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, wow.
I was putting them in the container in the night. I was so nervous because what are they each, like 100 quid each, whatever, back then, I don't know.
Couple of quid then.
It was great, 6 weeks. Me and Ezra Hames did it together. We worked really well.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. And but I remember in the middle of the night with all those shirts in the container, I just recall a few nights just driving down it to make sure they were all right. You know?
You didn't sleep in the container.
The circus come to town for the week, and I was really nervous then. All right, I was.
I bet you were. You mentioned Ezra Hames there. He's a skilled fellow with his hands as well, isn't he? And he's got a skilled backhand, partly down to some of that advice that you were talking about earlier in the show. Now, we're going to finish with what some people have considered to be your greatest skill, Greg. It has been widely said in the surfing world that you tell the best crap jokes ever.
Oh, thanks for that glowing endorsement.
We've normally finished our show throughout the pandemic with a surf trip nightmare where we try and remind ourselves why we don't all miss travel. But everywhere's back on the green list again now, at least for the next month or so. Who knows? So we're gonna sort of hang the surf trip nightmares up instead, and we're gonna do sort of surf joke nightmares here now. Have you got one for us?
Yeah, sure. I've got plenty.
Oh, God.
I've got to think of one now, though.
Make it clean.
Yeah.
Now, it's got to be kept a little bit clean, for
under 10
I know
minutes.
the one. I got a really playful one. Right. All my jokes are long, but they're never little.
Something with a bit of C in it as well,
Right. Okay. Here we go. Okay. I got it.
That's your timer. Go.
There's two little prawns swimming along in the South Pacific, in the gin clear waters of the South Pacific. One's called Joel, one's called Christian. Now they're friends and they're having a fun time, Joel and Christian. They're two little prawns. But no, Joel is says to Christian, Christian, I'm bored of this, mate. I'm scared of everyone. We're like the lowest of the food chain. Everyone's coming around and frightening us. We're always hiding behind that rock. I'm going to go up and have a word with the mighty cod and see what he can do about it. So that's it then. Joel goes off to the mighty cod and speaks to the mighty cod, and mighty cod says, right then, it's fine, Joel, I can help you, I can make you into a king prawn. Right? And Joel says, oh, that's fantastic, do it. And then he goes, mighty cod goes, bing, with his magic wand, and bingo, Joel is turned into a king prawn, right? Now, Joel goes back then as a king prawn to see Christian, who's only a little shrimp, prawn, and he goes, he says Christian, I'm here, cod, my cod's made me bigger. Oh, Christian's hiding away from him. He doesn't know who he is, he's gone all big, and he's scared of him as well. And then Joe's like, oh my God, I've gone and blown it now. I've lost Christian, my friend, as well, and I'm still the lowest of the food chain anyway. I've really screwed this all up, right? So he thinks, I'll have to go back to the mighty cod and become a little prawn shrimp again, right? So I can go and play with Christian again. So with that, Joe goes back to the mighty cod and he explains his dilemma. He says, look, flipping no one wants to be my friend, and I'm still the lowest of the food chain, and everyone's chasing me around. And the worst thing is Christian's running away from me, right? So, please, cod, make me into like a prawn shrimp like Christian again, right? So, bingo, with a magic wand, there he is now, he's back where he was, right? So he goes back to see his friend, and he goes up to him and he says, I've seen cod, and now I'm a prawn again, Christian.
Oh dear.
if I'm going to have the almighty if I got the dominoes to get through this bit, I've got to get through it.
Oh my
Greg,
God.
it's terrible.
I didn't say it was good. The fact that it was crap. But if you try and imagine it,
Yeah, well, I was. For a minute then, I was a prawn, not a Vaughan. So.
Prawn again, Christian.
Well, mate, I got to say,
Goodness me.
from my point of view, I've absolutely loved doing this today, and I'd love to do another 2 or 3 of these. And it's been hilarious. I mean, and after all this, time where we haven't been able to see friends and family and all that, it's great to catch up with you after nearly 18 months or so. And
well said. Well, but the feeling is reciprocal.
look forward to renewing our competitive acquaintances in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes, I'll be looking forward to it. Also,
Amazing experience, boys. Pair of you. Do you know when we first mooted the idea of this podcast years ago? I mean this, right? It was that we had in mind for a pilot, really, getting you, Greg, and Vaughanie together. We pretty much identified that as like our dream episode, and it's been every bit that. So on behalf of Crest, in partnership with Elusive, and all our listeners, diolch yn fawr iawn, and a huge thanks to both you fellas.
Diolch yn fawr i chi. I'd like to say thank you very much for having me today on the podcast. And I'd like to thank my sponsors, No Limit Wetsuits and JP Surfboards, and for a long time, Quicksilver. And I'd like to say hi to my children, who I adore them, right? And I do my very best in my life to make sure I can do what I can for them. And in every way possible. My little daughter, her name is Esme. She's 9 now. That's my Owen. My boy Luca is 12. They're beautiful. I love them. I adore them so much. And
Any pearl of wisdom for the grommets out there, Greg? Travel-wise, or something to finish off, something philosophical, something to inspire the next generation.
You've just got to love what you do and go for it, really, haven't you? You've got to go at it with a smile on your face, and don't do your homework backstage on your own. You've got to be able to self-improve. And you've got to be able to listen to good advice off the right sort of people who can guide you in the right direction. But really, you just need the oil. You're never going to do anything. We never do good in anything that we don't really like. If you love what you're doing, you're going to do well.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Sound.
Hoyle.
Hoyle, they call it in Wales.
Hoyle. And so we move on. Remember, you can send us any thoughts via castcrest@gmail.com or by commenting or messaging us through either Instagram or Twitter. Crest can be caught up with via all the main podcast apps, Apple, Google, Spotify, and through YouTube. Subscribe if you like, and do please leave a review too. In a fortnight, Rhino Thomas and I will be talking to Hawaiian big wave legend Buzzy Kerbox, a man who was one of the key pioneers as surfing's unridden realm was first tackled. Buzzy will be telling us about his incredible perspectives on some of the world's gnarliest waves and much more. Keep an eye out for it. In the meantime, hope you're getting some autumn swell. See you in the water, hopefully. Gwelwch chi yn y môr, gobeithio.
A tethau, gwelwch chi yn y môr, y fori. Lawr yr esbei, lawr ar lan y môr, lawr ar lan y môr.